Be blessed by the divine. Be blessed by the divine. Be blessed by the divine. Wishing you all a pleasant and very good morning. Again, after a small gap, I'm happy in meeting you all in this Zoom Friday class. Yeah, due to the work schedule, there was a small gap in between. Okay, today we will take the topic conscientious consciousness as a thought-provoking subject for us in this morning. Conscientious consciousness. It sounds like a tongue twister, right? But definitely that is not the objective for picking that as a topic for today. Our Guru, Vedatri Maharishi, wrote a book on this topic. I just thought of sharing few of the concepts from this book through today's topic of discussion. We have discussed about the term, right, the consciousness in many of our earlier classes. When I heard first time this term, consciousness, I felt that term itself appears to be like a superior word. Some of you might have experienced in the same way also. But in that book, Maharishi mentioned that he was searching for some suitable adjective which can be attached with the term consciousness. And after a brief search, he is telling that he found this word conscientious as a suitable word to be attached with consciousness. Yeah, that word has come from, we might have heard other term, right? Conscience. Yeah, generally talking, we have to do the things as per our conscience. Yeah, from there point, he arrived with this terminology, conscientious consciousness. Okay, that is the background of the topic of today. Okay, before going deep further, I like to raise a question, which is like a basic general question to all of us. All of us were born on this same earth. The life-protecting air that we all breathe is common for all of us. The sun that warms and lights the entire world is common for all of us. The seawater that evaporates and rains is also common for all of us. None of the above have been created by any one of us in this world. Every one of us is born, live, and will die. Can any of us deny the above facts? Yeah, think for a moment of all the wordings which was said so far. Can any of us deny the above fact? No, right? Yeah, obviously few of you answering. Yeah, we all can strongly say that no, right? Having understood these all facts and being born as a human being in this world from the very same origin, why do we all fight, argue, and give pain to each other? What exactly is wrong with us? With that question as a strong base, let us go into the topic further. Okay, first let us try to understand the word consciousness. Yeah, few of you are trying to answer for that question. Yeah, rightly said. These are few of the answers, right? Why do we do that? Yeah, let us see more by going into the topic. We'll try to understand the term consciousness first. If we literally see the meaning of that word, that is exactly meaning as per dictionary, like being conscious or being awake, which means the maintaining the awareness in all moments. That is what the literal meaning for this word consciousness. But when we approach the same word philosophically, it gives some kind of deeper meaning. In this moment, I like to recall a story here. Maybe some of you have heard this earlier. There was a king lived long ago who was very successful in his life. He never got defeated by anyone in many of the wars which he went through in his lifetime. So that kind of successful king, one of the night when he was sleeping, he had a dream. In that dream, he got badly defeated in a war, and all the possessions of him were taken away, and he was sent out of his country. He was standing in a forest alone for a long time, where he didn't get even anything to eat. So he was looking around and walking for a long distance. By that, he became more and more hungry and tired. Then he met a person and asked that person for something to eat. So, being a kind person, the other person also gave him food without even knowing who it is. So, the king has received that food on his palm and went beside a tree, and he was about to eat. On that moment, a big bird came suddenly from the tree and sat on his palm. Due to that sudden change, he got a shock, and with fear, he dropped that food on the soil. So the bird started sitting on that and started eating. So with that shock, the king is waking up from his sleep. So he was trying to see around where he is, and he was lying on his bed in the palace. So he was realizing that as a dream. But still, since it was very and negative emotional dream, he went confused and made some big noise in the night. So the people in the palace woke up, and some of his ministers came and to see him and asked him what exactly happened. So the king started sharing to them about that dream and the events in the dream. Then he was sharing that moment also. Because of that shock, he woke up and still he's feeling like confused. He raised a question to them. He wanted to understand which is the truth, whether the moments or situations which he went through few minutes ago in the dream, or the very same moment now he is talking to them, which is truth. He is really not able to differentiate that. So that was his question in that confused moment. So the ministers started explaining and telling him that no, that was a dream, and now you are awake and nothing else happened, and trying to convince him. But still, he's not convinced with the answers. So many scholars and philosophers came and tried to give their explanations, but still he was not convinced with those answers. Then there came a spiritualist who asked the king few questions. So first he started like, did you experience the events happened in the dream? Like you felt those yourself? The king answered yes, positively, very strongly. Yes, I could feel that the pain of getting defeated, and I could see that I was standing alone in the forest, and I realized in every minute of that dream. And I was very happy when I received the food on my palm, but again, that also I couldn't take in that hungry moment, so I felt disappointed. So all this he was explaining. So he felt that himself. That is what he's confirming. Then again, that spiritualist asked next question to him: do you realize the experience of the current situation now? What we are talking? Then again said, yes, I could see that. And many people came and tried to convince me by telling that it is a dream. But how can it be changed all of a sudden? Because I felt myself in both the situation, and now also I'm feeling that. But I wanted to get a proper explanation, which is truth. So the spiritualist said to the king, neither that is the truth, nor this is the truth. Now the king got confused furthermore, like all of us. The spiritualist continued further, saying, only you are the truth, the inner self of you. The inner self here is termed as soul or consciousness. Okay, leave the king there. Let us come back to our own life. How many of us went through such a similar experience, right? We all will be giving more importance to the events or the situation than our own inner self, right? And without even realizing that, we might have gone through in many of the situations in our lifetime. Okay, let us see another philosophy now. There's one more philosophy saying about the three states of every common man. Those are termed as waker, dreamer, and sleeper. As a waker in waking state, the person start experiencing the surroundings through his body and mind. The next state, as a dreamer, in dreaming state, the person can experience the events or surroundings through his mind only. As a sleeper, the person experiences nothing. But when you see the inner self leaving the person, the inner self of every common man, which is the soul or consciousness, it is not the waker, dreamer, or sleeper. The true or real nature is our own consciousness within all of us. Okay, by this time, I hope by all this philosophical discussion, you all might have understood clearly about consciousness, right? Or you get more confused now? How do you all feel? Okay, if it is confusing more, then leave those all philosophies. Yeah, and let us see what our Guru explains about consciousness. Even though our Guru has talked or mentioned about this consciousness in many of the topics, I like to start with one of a simple and very good conceptual topic in our introspection practice, which is who am I? When we raise this question within ourselves and analyze further to find an exact answer, we all can realize, and we might have realized also few things, right? When we are raising this question, like who am I within ourselves, and take our name, for example, and analyze, is that me? So when we are doing the analysis, we can realize that I am not the name, right? The same thing goes to the body. When we are analyzing, we can conclude that I am not the body. And again, with the mind, when we analyze, we can conclude that I am not the mind. This further continues for the life force also. When you take the next thing we know is life force and start analyzing with this question, we can conclude that I am not the life force. Then who am I? Yeah, thinking further and based on our Guru's explanation also, we all might have realized this earlier, right? The divine state has undergone some kind of transformation into consciousness, which is staying within us, with all of us, right? So now we can try to relate with that analysis. And if you think further, we all can conclude that I am the consciousness. The very same consciousness is the ability of all of us, within all of us. That is like every one of us. And Maharishi explains further about the consciousness. It is one of the unique characteristics of the divine. In our practical understanding, I can say that it's kind of like a highest level of knowledge. For example, if you take ourselves and think about the events happening in our body itself. For example, like any sensual organ, if you take and analyze its function and the experience and the skill of sensing the surroundings, each organ is differing on its own way, right? If you think how this skill is coming to each sensual organ, we all can conclude that the consciousness plays the major role in that. So that is providing, that is being like a knowledge, which is like kind of highest level of skill with each sensual organ to work in its own way. Not only the external experience, if you see the body, there are a lot of internal magical functions happening all through our lifetime, right? If you say, for example, if you take the air goes in and out continuously throughout our life, it's not only just passing in and out, right? It is providing some kind of energy to our body, and also it plays a role of removing some kind of waste from our body also when it is coming out. So these all are happening by the consciousness only. And also the consciousness plays a major role in our mind's function, which can result up to the self-realization, like realizing the divine within us that also can be achieved through mind only. So again, in another place, Maharishi is explaining about the consciousness. It is one among the four intrinsic qualities of the divinity. We all heard earlier also, right, about these four qualities of divine. Can you recall the four qualities of the divinity? Yeah, one of them is answered as omnipresent. Yeah, by that exact terms we heard through Maharishi, plenum, force, consciousness, and time. These are the four properties or qualities of the divinity, right? Yeah, the love, somebody is mentioning about love and compassion. Yeah, those are, again, some kind of qualities which are exhibited by the divinity. But if you talk about the properties, four main properties or inner qualities of divine, so these were the listed four by our Guru. Plenum, force, consciousness, and time. Among these four, the consciousness is very important and valuable. By understanding the value and greatness of consciousness, we will be able to progress more and more towards perfection. Because the consciousness is an order of function in everything and everywhere. Yeah, when we say that everything and everywhere, in all the events, whether it is positive or negative, the consciousness remains in that. So even when executing the effects of law of nature, it will be doing it on the right way. But again, it will be maintaining some kind of the love and compassion, which is the very own quality of divine in all those events, even in negative events. Right? We might have come across some kind of pain or loss in our lifetime. If you compare that in the later stage and try to analyze how we have gone through, we'll be able to realize one beautiful thing in that. In all those pain or loss which was given by the nature to us, there will be a inherent covered thing with that pain, which is kind of relief to us to overcome that. So with all the events, this will be given to us. So that is the reason we crossed that successfully, and we were able to analyze that moment by sitting now, right? One practical example to realize this fact more, I can quote like people getting fainted, right? So if you analyze that moment, when a person is crossing the limit of bearing a pain, so the nature makes us to faint. So that is the reason people get fainted in some kind of high emotional state or in high level of injured state. So this is the nature's play, which is happening again by the consciousness. So by all these reasons, Maharishi called it as conscientious consciousness. Yes, we can also realize, right, that because the consciousness being conscientious, all the functions in the universe are happening perfectly and precisely. So since we talked about the universal events, now let us try to visualize the evolution of the universe and the functioning of the universe also with some simple kind of approach. Because Maharishi has given us in very simplified manner, right, about even the evolution of the universe theory was explained to all of us in a very simple manner. Let us try to visualize that now. If you think from the high level, the whole universe itself is a product of divinity, right? And when you see the consciousness role, all the functions in this universe are determined by the consciousness. So let us try to visualize before everything gets manifested from the beginning, right? So initially, the invaluable absolute space only was there in everywhere. And it has its own quality of the self-compressive pressure force. So by that force, it got continuously getting compressed and become like dust particles, which is termed as imperceptible dust particles. So now the dust and space, there are two different things there. And again, we will not be able to differentiate the dust from the space. That is why it is termed as imperceptible dust, right? Because that is like equally transparent with the space. So we will not be able to visualize that also. Again, not confusing more, to get that practically visualized, I want to take you all through a practical situation. In our childhood days, we might have seen, right, a house which is having a roof or tile, not a terraced one, roof or tile. And when there is a gap in the roof or a hole on the roof, the sunlight used to pass through that hole into our house, right? We all might have seen this in our childhood days. So when you see in that situation, across the length of the light beam, we will be able to see some kind of minute particles, many number of minute particles swirling around across the length of the light beam. So this is the way it was. Like now we are just comparing with the manifested thing, but originally when the absolute space got compressed and dust particles formed, it was in that way. Even though the dust there, we couldn't see until the light beam was coming, right? In this example. So similarly, that time also we cannot differentiate the dust particles from the space. So again, because of the self-compressive force, all these dust particles also started swirling around. So due to the swirling motion, there is some energy produced now, which is termed as magnetism. So when the magnetism came, there are two kind of forces also occurred, like which is attractive and repulsive forces for each dust particle. So due to these two forces, now the dust particles got associated and forming the fundamental energy particle. So again, the fundamental energy particles start getting associated, leading to the formation of the atoms. Atoms got associated and forming the elements. Again, these basic 5 elements are the root cause or origin for all the appearances, whether it is non-living or living appearance, what we see in this universe, all are because of the association of these 5 basic elements. So this is the way the universe has evolved with some simple words which was given by our Maharishi, and I tried to simplify to go through and to visualize the formation of the evolution of the universe. Sorry. So all through this process, in every step of transformation, the consciousness plays a major role with the transformation. It works in different manner when we take non-living things and living things, living beings, and the human being, which is having some special quality among the living being, right? So when we compare with these three categories, the consciousness again plays in a different ways also. So Maharishi gave that also in detail. Like with non-living things, it's playing in a level of like pattern, precision, and regularity. So these three level of consciousness is seen on the non-living things. So when we see the living things, it is playing again with the three level of consciousness. So that is like it is giving an ability to cognize and experience and discriminate. So these were the abilities given to the living beings through the consciousness. And as I was telling earlier, for human beings, it has got another special quality. It can even take us to a stage of realizing our inner self. So that is a special ability the consciousness is giving to all the human beings also. And one more scientific example to understand the conscientious consciousness quoted by our guru in that book was about the curious behavior of the normal water when it is cooled. We all know about the liquid, right? The liquid properties. Any liquid, if you cool, the density will start decreasing. Not decreasing, it is increasing. Yeah, it is getting more and more dense. If you start talking about taking the water and start cooling it, the density is gradually increasing. But there is a unique quality with the water. Up to 4 degrees centigrade, this property, this nature will continue. But when it reaches 4 degrees, there is a magical change. If you are cooling further down below 4 degrees, the density of the water decreases and it starts floating on the surface of water. So that is the reason we might have seen scientifically it is explained also, right, why ice floats on the water. So that is happening because of this magical behavior of the water. So if you think further philosophically, why this magical behavior is given to the water, if this is not there, there will be no marine life in colder zones. Because below the surface of the ice, the water has to be staying in liquid form so that the living creatures in the water can continue living. So this was the nature's gift provided by the conscientious consciousness to protect the living beings, all the living beings in the water. Okay, now by hearing all this explanation and understanding the importance of consciousness, the not the ordinary consciousness, conscientious consciousness, by understanding it, what is our role, what we need to do exactly. That is very important, right? Because understanding the concept is one thing, but if you know what is our objective by knowing this, then only we can utilize the real benefit. Okay, let us come to that part now. In current situation, we all can see that by the advancement of science and technology, the human life is greatly appreciated, means changed to a level. We can produce all the essential commodities and facilities, whatever is required for our comfortable living today, right? So being in that status now, so we have to utilize this time and moment to have some progress and improvement in our spiritual path also. Because even after doing all this kind of innovative improvements in our life, we couldn't lead a peaceful and pleasant life, right? So reason is we couldn't know the secret of maintaining the harmony within ourselves and also with our society and nature. So if you are putting some focus on progressing in the spiritual path, then only we will be able to live a balanced life with all these, whatever mentioned now. So for achieving that spiritual progress, what we need to do, we all have consciousness, which we have seen now within ourselves, with every one of us. So that consciousness has to be enlightened to a level of its capability, real capability, right? Up to like universe, even up to the absolute space level. If you are enlightening and expanding it, so we will be able to function our own consciousness in a state of conscientious consciousness. So we all will be able to do that with our continuous practices, whatever we have learned so far. And I definitely believe that this kind of explanation are the concepts, philosophies provided by our Guru, which is rephrased through today's topic, will help definitely to all of us to attain that stage with all the regular practice. Yeah, with that wish, I will conclude the topic of today. Thank you. Be blessed by the divine.